Welcome back, everyone. It's time for another deep dive.
Always exciting to dig into some fresh articles. Yeah, well,
Absolutely. And today we've got a particularly interesting batch from lifesaytrucker.com.
yeah, a little more on the entertaining side today.
Exactly. Sometimes you just need a break from all the, serious industry stuff.
Right. Still insightful, though. Gives you a feel for what's going on out there.
For sure. So the first one that caught my eye was this article called, "Are You Making These Common Trucking Mistakes?" And paying the price for it.
Yeah, that one's a classic.
It is, and it seems like a lot of these mistakes aren't really about driving skill.
More about those fundamental habits.
Exactly, and they can really trip you up even if you've been on the road for years.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what makes this article so important. It's a good reminder for all of us.
So let's start with something that might seem obvious, skipping the pre-trip inspection.
The article calls it Russian roulette with your rig.
That's a pretty strong image.
It is, and it gets the point across because think about it. You're responsible for an 80,000-pound vehicle.
Right, and neglecting those basic checks on your tires, fluids, lights, brakes, you name it.
It's a huge risk, not just for your own safety, but for everyone else on the road, too.
Absolutely, and they even mention some of the potential financial consequences.
Oh, yeah, like tow bills, which can easily reach $500 according to the article.
Wow, and that's not even counting any fines or getting put out of service by the DOT.
It's interesting. They quote an experienced driver in the article who says,
Let me guess something along the lines of, "I've seen so many rookies."
ruin good tires just by not doing their pre-trips. It's not complicated stuff. It's just a matter of being thorough, not lazy.
Yeah, that about sums it up.
And the fix is so simple. Just take 10 minutes to walk around your truck and trailer.
Before you even think about hitting the road.
Exactly. A small investment of time for some major peace of mind.
And speaking of peace of mind, let's talk about the next mistake, over-relying on GPS.
Yeah, we all love our navigation systems, but the article makes a good point about not blindly following them.
Especially in a truck.
Right, you could end up on a road with weight restrictions or trying to squeeze under a low bridge.
Or even worse, in a dead end.
They actually mention that happening.
I can only imagine how frustrating that would be.
To say the least. So their advice is to definitely use GPS, but always double check it.
With a good old-fashioned trucker's atlas or company-approved routing.
Right, it's all about using these tools intelligently, not letting them completely take over.
They have a great line in the article, "If the GPS looks like it's taking you somewhere a truck shouldn't be, it probably is."
So true. Okay, moving on to the next one, neglecting trip planning.
I think we're all guilty of this sometimes.
Yeah, it's tempting to just hit the road and figure it out as you go.
But for truckers, that can lead to all sorts of problems.
Big time. You could end up taking unnecessary detours, wasting fuel and time.
Missing delivery appointments, racking up unexpected tolls.
And then there's the stress of trying to find parking when you're already exhausted.
Which is a huge issue in itself.
Absolutely. We'll get to that later. But yeah, the article really emphasizes the importance of planning ahead.
Mapping out your fuel breaks your overnight parking.
And always factoring in some extra time for the unexpected.
Right, because things happen out on the road.
They quote a burned-out trucker in the article who says, once I actually started properly mapping out my day, it completely changed my stress levels.
That's a powerful testament to the benefits of planning.
For sure, and it can make a huge difference in your overall well-being.
Okay, now for a really serious one, driving too fast in bad weather.
Yeah, the article doesn't mince words. They basically call an 80,000-pound truck a guided missile in those conditions.
That's a sobering thought.
It is. You have to remember the stopping distance is dramatically different compared to a car.
Especially in snow, heavy rain, or thick fog.
The consequences of losing control in those conditions could be devastating.
So what's the advice?
Slow down significantly. Use your hazard lights to make yourself visible.
And if it's really bad?
Pull over and park safely. No delivery is worth risking lives.
Absolutely. Safety should always come first.
Agreed. Now, here's an interesting one. The article talks about drivers being reluctant to ask questions.
Yeah, I can see how that could happen.
There's this idea that asking for help is a sign of weakness.
But the article completely flips that around.
They say the real weakness is making avoidable mistakes because you are too afraid to ask.
And they have a quote from a newbie who learned that lesson quickly.
Reaching out to dispatchers, more experienced drivers, or even your fleet manager for clarification can save you from a world of trouble.
It's great advice, and most people in the industry are happy to help out someone who's genuinely trying to learn.
Exactly. We've all been there.
Okay, last but not least, the article talks about maintaining trucker health on the road.
Yeah, that's so important. It's easy to fall into bad habits with the long hours and limited food options.
Right. But poor diet lack of sleep and dehydration can really take a toll on your body.
and ultimately lead to burnout.
So what can drivers do to stay healthy?
The article offers some really practical tips to stay hydrated throughout the day. Stretch regularly during your breaks.
Make healthier food choices whenever possible and prioritize getting enough sleep.
It's all about taking care of yourself so you can keep those wheels turning safely and efficiently.
Well said. So, to summarize this first article, it seems like success in trucking isn't just about driving skills.
It's about discipline planning and humility too,
Exactly, taking personal responsibility for the fundamentals.
which leads us perfectly into our next article. Critical maintenance tips. Every new truck driver should master, unless you love breakdowns.
The title says it all.
It does. Even the best driver in the world can't get far if their truck isn't in good shape.
Right, so this article really focuses on those proactive maintenance habits.
Starting with those all-important pre-trip inspections, which they actually call a form of life insurance this time.
I like that analogy.
Me too. It really emphasizes the importance, and they go into more detail about what those checks should include.
Like tire pressure, fluid levels, hoses, belts, lights, brakes.
The whole 9 yards, and they remind us that it only takes about 10 to 15 minutes each day,
But the potential costs of overlooking something are huge.
both in terms of money and safety,
They also talk about the importance of understanding your tires.
beyond just checking for flats.
Right. They explain how maintaining the correct air pressure is crucial.
Underinflated tires can wear out much faster, and overinflated ones can increase the risk of blowouts,
They also say to look for signs of uneven wear or cupping.
which could indicate problems with your alignment or suspension.
So your tires can actually tell you a lot about the health of your truck.
If you know what to look for,
And then there's the whole world of truck fluids.
engine oil coolant, brake fluid, power steering fluid.
It's not just about checking the levels, though.
Right. You also need to pay attention to the color and consistency.
Because those can be early warning signs of potential problems.
Exactly like milky oil or discolored coolant could signal serious issues,
They also dedicate a good chunk of the article to brake maintenance.
which is obviously crucial for a vehicle of this size.
And they highlight the differences between air brakes and the hydraulic brakes we're used to in cars.
They talk about the importance of draining your air tanks, monitoring air pressure, inspecting brake chambers and slack adjusters.
And always checking for leaks.
They even mention how DOT inspectors pay very close attention to brake violations,
Especially in mountainous terrain.
where properly functioning brakes are absolutely essential.
Now, here's a connection I wouldn't have thought of. They talk about how keeping your truck clean actually helps with maintenance.
It makes sense when you think about it.
Right, a clean truck makes it easier to spot leaks, damage, or anything unusual during your checks.
And it might even help you avoid extra scrutiny from DOT officers.
Can't hurt.
Not at all. And finally, they urge drivers to listen to their trucks.
You mean those squeaks, rattles, and ganks?
Exactly. Those aren't just annoying sounds. They're often your truck trying to tell you something.
It could be something minor, like a loose belt.
Or something more serious, like a driveline issue or even a drop in fuel efficiency.
So paying attention to those sounds is important.
It's like being in tune with your truck.
And they have some great quotes from drivers in the multiple perspective section.
One rookie caught a hub seal issue early because of a routine check.
And a more experienced driver learned the hard way about ignoring a low coolant light.
Ouch, that probably led to some expensive repairs.
And the industry reality check section really drives home the financial implications of neglecting maintenance.
Talking about rising shop labor costs, parts, back orders, and how even minor issues can lead to major delays.
And lost income.
Exactly. So the bottom line is that understanding basic truck maintenance is essential for safety profitability and avoiding becoming what they call a rolling liability.
Okay, now for something completely different. Driver swap at 60 mph. What could go wrong?
Oh boy, this one's a head shaker.
The article talks about this alarming trend of drivers trying to swap seats while the truck is moving.
At highway speeds, no less.
All for social media clout.
It's unbelievable how reckless and irresponsible this is.
And the article really breaks down just how dangerous it is.
First of all, it's completely illegal. FMCSA regulations require a qualified driver to be in control of the vehicle at all times.
And crawling across the cab at 60 miles per hour definitely doesn't qualify.
Not even close. And then there's the physics of it.
We're talking about a 40-ton vehicle.
One wrong move, And it could easily lead to a jackknife, a multi-vehicle pileup.
Serious injuries or even
It's
fatalities.
not worth the risk for a few likes on social media.
And they have some great quotes in the multiple perspective section.
You've got the delusional clout chaser who thinks it's all fun and games,
The old school trucker who's appalled by this disrespect for the profession.
and the fleet owner who makes it clear that this kind of behavior is grounds for immediate termination.
Plus, they talk about the industry response.
The FMCSA is aware of this trend, and some companies are even installing in-cab cameras to deter these stunts,
And insurance companies are understandably concerned.
which could lead to even tighter regulations and higher costs for everyone.
It's a reminder that actions have consequences.
Absolutely. So the message is clear driver swaps at highway speeds are a recipe for disaster.
Okay, moving on to another major issue, the ongoing lack of truck parking.
Still, no place to park again. A rigged Congress might finally do something about it.
Let's hope so, because this has been a problem for far too long.
It's a constant struggle for drivers to find safe and legal places to park when they need to take their mandatory rest breaks.
Which often forces them to park in dangerous spots like highway shoulders or exit ramps.
It's a safety hazard for everyone involved.
And this article talks about the possibility of federal intervention.
They're discussing increased funding for new truck parking projects.
Expanding rest areas, truck stops, and even creating dedicated truck-only lots.
They also mention investing in technology-based solutions.
Like apps and sensors that provide real-time parking availability information.
It's not just about convenience, though.
Right, it's a safety issue, a health issue, and even a supply chain issue.
Absolutely fatigued drivers are more likely to be involved in accidents,
And the lack of parking can make it difficult for drivers to access basic necessities.
like showers and healthy meals.
The multiple perspective section is really interesting.
You've got drivers expressing their frustration.
Safety advocates raising concerns,
Industry groups like OOIDA and ATA pushing for more parking.
and even some local governments resisting the idea.
It's a complex problem with no easy solutions.
But the article does offer a glimmer of hope that Congress might finally be ready to take some action.
We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, now for something a little more forward-looking. Stuck in the messy middle, here's how fleets can actually pick the right powertrain without guessing.
The messy middle.
It's a fitting description for the current state of alternative powertrains in trucking.
With so many options available, it's hard to know which technology will ultimately prevail.
Battery, electric, hydrogen fuel cells, natural gas, even biofuels.
And nobody wants to make a huge investment in the wrong technology.
So the article emphasizes the importance of making informed decisions,
Based on several key factors.
like understanding your specific routes and duty cycles.
Right. They mention how companies like Penske have found success with battery electric trucks for shorter hauls.
But long-haul routes present bigger challenges.
Exactly. Charging infrastructure is still a major hurdle for those distances.
So that's the second key factor. They highlight infrastructure.
You need reliable refueling or recharging options along your routes.
NACFE, the North American Council for Freight Efficiency, really emphasizes this point.
And they also talk about the total cost of ownership.
Looking beyond the initial purchase price and considering fuel maintenance lifespan resale value.
NACFE has some great white papers on this topic,
Showing how alternative fuel vehicles could lead to long-term savings.
even if they have a higher upfront cost,
And finally, you have to keep up with the constantly changing government regulations.
especially those zero-emission mandates in certain states.
The multiple perspectives section highlights the diverse viewpoints within the industry,
Some fleet owners are hesitant to embrace change.
while others see early adoption as a competitive advantage.
NACFE advocates for a data-driven approach.
Testing and scaling proven technologies, and they point to their navigating the messy middle white paper and run on less data as valuable resources.
So the takeaway is to test, analyze, and adapt.
Don't just guess when it comes to alternative powertrains.
Now for our final article, trucking ain't what it used to be. And that might be a good thing.
This one takes a more reflective look at how the profession has evolved
From the days of paper maps and CB radios.
to today's world of GPS apps and AI load boards.
It's a big shift.
And the article explores both the positive and negative aspects of this technological revolution.
On the plus side, we have increased efficiency, more precise navigation, and advanced safety features.
But there's also concern about drivers becoming over-reliant on technology.
And a sense of reduced autonomy.
Plus, the constant electronic tracking can feel like an invasion of privacy for some drivers.
They also talk about how compensation has increased in some segments.
But so have costs.
And there's a perception that the overall respect for the profession has declined.
The article contrasts what they call old-school pride with tech-era hustle.
highlighting the different values and approaches to the job.
And they conclude by saying that trucking is moving towards increased automation and AI.
So even smaller operators will need to adapt to stay competitive.
The bottom line is that the fundamentals of trucking remain the same,
But the methods are changing rapidly.
requiring drivers to stay sharp and embrace new ways of working.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into lifesaTrucker.com,
We've covered a lot of ground.
from practical tips to industry trends,
Even some of the more entertaining aspects of trucking life
it's a great reminder that this profession is constantly evolving.
and facing new challenges.
But the men and women behind the wheel continue to play a vital role in our economy.
Absolutely. So it makes you wonder which of these trends will have the biggest impact on the future of trucking.
Will automation completely change the role of the driver?
Will we ever solve the parking crisis?
And how will the industry navigate this messy middle of alternative powertrains?
These are all important questions to consider,
It's definitely an exciting time to be watching this industry unfold.
with all its complexities and innovations.
So until next time, keep those wheels turning safely and efficiently.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
See you next time.
Take care, everyone.